on here with our beautiful Amy. Amy, we've come together because we were talking on the phone, and I just wanted to talk a little bit about the court case. I had quite a few messages where people didn't believe it, and then one person said there was a spelling mistake on it, but there's one copy signed and one copy not signed. I didn't notice the mistakes myself, but I'm not very good with grammar. And then I made a message which I put over the top, which basically said, you know, how can all the leaders stay there after they put us through all this with the masks, the NHS, the virus which doesn't exist, and you know what will happen? What is Trump going to suddenly run up and go, oh, I'm free now, and I'm not, you know, well, who was running the country then when all this stuff went out? He makes the decisions. It's a bit like we go there. If he didn't want us to speak, we don't speak. If he wants us to speak, we speak. He's in charge. So what he suddenly goes, I'm free. It was them. They had me hostage in the White House. Really, him, Boris, and the rest need to go. But the other thing I noticed was, I told you, is Boris was going on and on about we are London, high tech, brown tech. I said in the video of that one, is Boris taking over? And it could be a bit like that, because I think Boris, Trump, Putin, and the rest of them should be on that court case for doing the same thing to us. So that's why I don't think that court case is as real as they say it is.
Yes, that could be, unless they're going after the ones. I mean, Trump and Boris and Putin are kind of new to the leadership, relatively new compared to Obama and the Clintons. So maybe they didn't have a chance to draw up anything for. I mean,
what's this about, Amy? Because it just seems that. I mean, someone was saying it's like they're dealing with the last government, and I'm thinking, well, I haven't seen them do anything like this before. So what you do is they come into power, and then basically when they leave, you take them to court.
Right.
Have you ever heard of the last government being taken to court?
No, I never heard of that.
Because they've really got it in for Obama and Clinton in that court thing.
Yeah, I mean, they've been trying to get Hillary Clinton for a while with those emails.
Yeah, but why is she still on the television? Why is she still answering questions? These people, including Trump, Boris, Putin, the whole lot, they should resign.
I agree.
For what they've done to us and what they've allowed through whatever it is, CV 1919 CV, whatever's going on, court case, whatever it is, whatever they're calling coronavirus, although we know that Claudio says that that's our head chakra and it's a cleanse, and that's what's actually happening. So in a sense it sort of is, I suppose, but it's all just a bit bizarre. Like, I'm not convinced by that thing anymore. I'm not sure if there should be more names on it.
Yeah, like I said, I mean, they got a lot of the really bad people and the bad organizations, but it should be more names when there. But the only thing
like
I can
our
think
royal
is,
family should be on there.
Right.
They're doing the same thing.
Yes. Maybe when they drew it up, they only went after the older ones that, you know.
Well, I don't know, our royal family's quite old. Somebody put a message on about the William and Harry one. They said, I never ever thought they looked anything alike. Oh.
Yes.
They do. And that's what shocked me. That's why I made that video, that William and Harry were... Well, actually, that picture of William is Harry, just that it's got less hair and no beard.
Right. Yeah, so why would they have to do that?
And yet I never thought they looked anything alike. I think what they do is it's a bit like, can you play me today? I don't know what it is. It's all crazy. We're living in this weird reality where nothing's real.
I know.
Onto the Watts one. What do you make about the fact that I made the picture? I was actually going to be doing something completely different. And then when I put those pictures on top of each other, I thought, oh my God, they're the same picture.
Yeah.
This picture.
The picture of him when
this picture is where is it? I've got to go find it now. Is this picture? This picture is this picture. They've just aged it. They've taken off his beard. It's the same freaking picture.
Right.
One's in prison and one's standing outside his... Oh, that's the other one. One's in the prison and one's standing outside his house.
Yeah, just use the same picture and then present it to us. It's like they think we are very stupid. They just presented that prison picture to us as if it was a genuine picture.
Yeah, I was saying to you before we
they...
came on here, is it like Cluedo? Spot the things, because it's like, we said he's come off death row, he's sitting in a room where there's boxes and all sorts of things, could be wires in them, and they,
Right.
there was no cameras in there, his arms are legs on that prison picture, in that prison, that one there that's showing now, but when you see his whole body, there's also a different sort of, I don't know, nothing adds up. Me and Ditzy did it.
I remember, yes, and you broke it down, and that the badge was wrong, and the beads around the badge, it was holding.
And that's when we were
and
really
face
new
were
to
wrong.
breaking the footage down, and we had to realise that this is what they were doing to us.
I know. I mean, I knew something was wrong about that case, but because it didn't add up. But I never thought about studying the pictures or breaking footage down. And you were the one that did that, and you basically, broke the case of what was going on. That the whole thing was just a narrative that they.
Oh, just sweetie. Mention what do you see channel, because she is the reason I saw something was wrong. It's because of her and those videos that I decided, I was by accident, because I first made a video to show that I agreed with it, but then when I looked at it, it just, because we all knew now there was something wrong on the drive.
Yes.
I wasn't expecting to break it down and see like a whole nother story happening in the video, if you could follow it, because it all is a bit blurry. But again, everybody who watched those 20 odd videos I made of the drive,
yes, you were very diligent with that.
I know, but I am talking to my #1 fan, aren't I?
That's right. But yeah, that was brilliant that you cracked the case, is how I see it. And,
well, probably me and Diane, because she's the one that noticed the drive. Without that, I never would have. But it wasn't just that. With Patricia, we looked at the drive, and then none of the footage, none of the information added up on the discovery document. And then over weeks, we noticed that they put the wrong address down for Bella. They put the wrong details down for the people. Like, it wasn't just one mistake, there was loads of mistakes. And then most people who've woken up realised you couldn't shove them in the things. So,
exactly.
They were too big for the holes. So,
right.
But it's just, but this case is the beginning of where we are now. I mean, it may not have been the absolute beginning, but for where we joined it, because this case isn't real. And again, I applaud you and your daughter stating that, Shanann's in the wrong period of time. She's like the 2000s.
Oh, thank you.
Her hairstyle, her clothes. She wasn't modern as today. She was only in her 30s. Right. She was like 10, 15 years ago.
Exactly. Yeah. I just wonder why they want to do this to the people. Is it to keep us distracted from
And then we keep finding Chris Watts. We keep finding it. Well, we haven't done it lately, but for months we were finding the district attorney playing other people. Like, what was it? The guy who was in the guy was in the net.
Williams.
That's it. And at the same time, he was 30 years younger, playing a news reporter in Australia.
Right, that's right.
It's like, this is absolutely crazy.
Yes,
so this is why I'm upset that document didn't have more on it, because, people like him should be arrested.
That's right.
Or whoever's making him, whoever's doing this. Whatever it is, because I actually think it's virtual reality. So basically, just because they show us the video games doesn't mean they haven't got a better one. And then we watched Chris Watts turn around and these things, just like video games. So I just think this is a much better video game. The virtual reality is almost spot on. It's just when you slow it down, you see the mistakes, because it isn't real.
Right. Yeah, because they're getting better at it. And I was watching a video where a lady was talking about the deepfake technology, and she said, "Thank God, right now we can catch their mistakes." But
that's what I say.
after a while,
Ditzy
yeah,
put a comment
she reminded me of you.
Ditzy put a comment on there
Yes.
today to say, remember, or it was about Prince Charles, they can't do the hands. There's certain things they can't do, noses. They have problems.
Exactly.
That's why we see, but I'm so glad for the mistakes.
Yes.
But you would
And
think, wouldn't you, as they've had 30, 40 years to do it, that they would have been better by now.
Right, but unfortunately, they probably will be getting better.
But that court case doesn't cover what they're doing to us through the television, really, does it? It does have news channels on there, but they're not talking about what they've done to us.
Right. Well, the man, Cyrus Parsa, that head of the AI organization that is, in favor of this lawsuit, and he was saying that the media has been so manipulated through the AI in some way that they're almost brainwashed themselves, and then trying to brainwash the people that are watching the mainstream media. If I understand it correctly, what he was saying, he was basically saying that it's just this AI has taken a point of just brainwashing people to a point that maybe they don't even realize it. And it's really horrible, to do that. It's definitely, to me, crimes against humanity, and it has to stop. And it would be so wonderful if that court case was true and they could bring the people and the
organizations. But there's not enough names on
there,
Amy. Sorry, they should all be on there. They're all playing games with us.
Right. So
it's a pile of tricks, politics.
Yeah, but maybe to keep the people hopeful. Like
I don't even believe in Q. I feel that I'm quite a psychic, empathic person, but I just cannot go the Trump way. Nope.
Right. I tried to follow
the Q way
for a while. Yeah, and then I just I didn't really get into Q, and I know even some staunch Trump supporters don't believe in Q. There's some really good YouTube channels that they believe in Trump and they cover the news, but they don't believe in the Q business. But what's the problem, I think, with what we've seen with this pandemic and that they made and everything is in America, it seems like the Republicans are just blaming the Democrats. And I know the Democrats
how does that all go, though? Because
participate.
If you believe it's a load of tricks, pile of tricks, politics, then that's all part of that.
Yes, and so it's not just a left-wing thing. I think, or a Democrat thing. I think it's much more widespread than that. It's worldwide. It's that World Economic Forum, and like the United Nations and World Health Organization, and they're all tied together. And Bill Gates, they're all tied together, and so. It's really bad, and I just worry that
maybe the war is the television. Maybe the war is the internet.
Yes,
because I told you, Boris, pluralism. We've got high tech. We're such a great place. What is Boris taking over?
Yes.
Trump's going no, China.
Well, Trump has tried to be in, competition with China, and I don't want China.
But they're all in on it together.
There is probably one big game where everything is in it together. Is that what you think?
Yeah, imagine making this game. It's just this never-ending game, like a great big octopus with 100 legs on it, and there's just so many different fractions of it. You've got go and make riots. Go and tell the black people they're great. Go and tell the white people they're good. Go and tell them this. and they're all sections of it just to wind us up, wind the people up.
Exactly. That's right. And what a shame and what a waste of time, because there's intelligent people, and
what about those that believe everything's
their,
real and think that
to use their intelligence or their time to just deceive the people instead of trying to do things to help us, like working cures for diseases and things
you know
like that.
firsthand, don't you, because of what they did to your dad. Your dad was just a tiny bit pre that, but he goes for treatment. He's cured of his cancer, but the treatment kills him.
Exactly. That's exactly what happened. That's right. And by now, they could have had, a cure, for cancer and many diseases.
And they took the Rife machine away. And not just that.
Exactly.
What was I going to say? They took the Rife... There's just, like with the year 2020, and we're being treated like we're in a concentration camp of some kind.
Exactly. I know.
And the bit about, because what it is I put this video out when that man's talking about they want to euthanize his mum and he doesn't want it, and you can hear his mum labouring in the background. It was horrible. And somebody said, well, that's a few years old, and that made it worse because they were doing it before we had the corona thing. Like, I don't know how I'd feel if someone said, let your parents grow, let them go. And I'm thinking, I don't want them to go.
Exactly.
Isn't life... I mean, you don't want someone without being alive without a life. But...
Right. But
and in all these cases lately, in this pandemic, they've all got do not resuscitate on them. Like, what are they doing to them?
I know, and see, that's what they did with my dad. He was passed before the coronavirus situation, but they pretty much bullied us into changing his code from full resuscitate to do not resuscitate.
What did they tell you that you had to do with your dad?
They told us that we had to encourage him to die, basically. They wanted us to tell him, that you need to tell your dad to go, that you all will be fine without him, and he should go on and go home to Jesus. And
when did this happen? When was this happening to you?
Now, this was towards the end of his life, after he had went through all this radiation.
So we're talking of like November, December.
Yeah, this was December, like right around Christmas. And what it was, because he had got the radiation and the chemotherapy destroyed his immune system. And so he was getting every infection under the sun. And so he was very dehydrated, but they didn't want to give him IV fluids.
Not just that, it twisted his body, didn't it?
Yes, he was bedridden. He couldn't move at all. He couldn't move himself, up in the bed. My sister and I had to pull him up. His leg got all contracted, and it never went back. So, in other words,
he was cured of cancer. He was cured of the cancer. In fact, they told you he had it all over his brain, and then the brain doctor looked at it and said, no, his brain's okay. So his brain was okay, but the rest of his body was destroyed.
It destroyed his whole body.
He couldn't talk to you, could he? He couldn't talk to you?
No. At the end, he couldn't even talk to us. He couldn't move at all. And, like we said, he was contracted. And it was just a very horrible death. And then the chemotherapy.
I just can't get over the fact that basically you've got an ill person. No one wants anybody suffering, by the way, but you've got to turn around and tell them to let go. That to me just sounds absolutely horrific.
Oh, it was, and I didn't do it at the hospital where the nurse was kind of bullying us into doing it, but my relatives, came on Christmas, my dad was home, but he was in pretty bad shape because he was so dehydrated. And my uncle said that I had to tell him to go to Jesus. And every time I hesitated, my uncle would start, hitting himself in the head. He was so frustrated at me. And he said, your dad wants to go, and he's only hanging one for you. And it's not fair to your dad to ask him to continue to fight. But I think that he did want to fight, but they kept telling me to do that. So I did go to him, and I said, Dad, I don't know if you can even hear me. And I said, but if you don't want to, if you're ready to go home to Jesus, we'll be okay. And it broke my heart to say that.
The thing is, you don't even know at the end what he was really struggling with because he couldn't talk to you.
Exactly. Oh,
but also, it seemed that they wanted to dehydrate him, which is just awful, Death.
Absolutely, that's what they do to anybody that's in a hospice. Hospice is really a bad thing. They do dehydrate you, and they give you morphine to slow down your breathing, just stops. And so it's just about killing a person is what it's about. It's a barbaric system. And after I witnessed it, I wanted to go on a campaign against hospice because it's just all wrong. It's
I know that you really loved your dad, but you noticed that the whole system just doesn't care. And hardly any of the nurses were very nice, and the hospice care was awful. But Amy, listen.
Yes.
We've been going on for 21 minutes. Still got this picture of, yeah.
Chris Watts.
To me, this case hinges rather a lot on where we are because it got us watching this case. Millions watched it. And it was also like, if you're not in with us, we'll kill you, kind of thing in the comments.
Yes.
I mean, I know a lot more people now think it's a lie.
Right.
But this is to convince us about this story. When there's so many problems with it, disappearing him, there's just so many problems to do that to us.
Exactly.
And if you could understand what they did in this, you'll understand what they've done to us now.
Exactly. And so many people realize, that they have lied to us, but then you have just the opposite where people are in complete denial.
And to change the story, he had to say, because we all realised that he couldn't have done what he did, he didn't do it the way he said he did, and he wrote a book about it. God.
Exactly.
And then the woman who wrote the book looks like a sort of 40-year-older version of him and much bigger.
Yes.
As a woman.
Right. I know. They just really are trying to confuse people and really mess up their mind. And I think they just want to see what they can get them and how far they can deceive people. And I have just asked my friends to please stop looking at the mainstream media, but they don't do it. So as long as they're going to keep believing mainstream media, they're never going to see the truth, and they're going to be a slave to the system and what they're going to do everything.
Something we didn't do? Do you remember?
As
I'm looking at this picture here of Chris Watts outside the house. Okay, it's the same one as the prison one. He said that Shanann bought him that T-shirt. I wonder if anybody checked whether 2018 that was one of the T-shirts they had for sale, because you might have found that it's 2005 they were selling it, or 2006 or 2001.
Oh, that would be interesting to look into.
We've probably missed the plot there on that one because we've gone on a little bit, and they probably don't have many stock photographs now from there. They just don't, do they? You can't go back like that. But it would have been interesting to have seen if that T-shirt was the Today T-shirt.
Right. Yeah. I wonder if they don't even drop in those kind of clues, to kind of let the people who they know are a little bit more awake, that they drop clues for them.
Yeah, it's like Cluedo. I said it's like Cluedo.
Yes, it is.
And
it's crazy.
yeah, I still think I just don't know whether that court case. I just don't know if we can all be convinced. There's many answers saying they didn't believe it, or it's all another psyop. So yeah, that's where we are with that. And the same thing about the picture ups, the same thing. That's another one of those. Yeah. Anything else you want to say, Amy, before we go?
Yeah, just that we sure have been lied to, by the media and everything. And
that's what I'm saying. What is Trump going to suddenly come running out and go, they had me captive in the White House for 10 years, 4 years, whatever it was. I couldn't say anything. That means he wasn't running the country, and he can't do that. Like, he's the one that invites the people to the podiums. If he doesn't agree with it and he's the president, he doesn't have them. He goes on what he thinks. So why would he have all those people there telling us the figures? And he's going, look at those figures. China's on 0.03, America's on 11%, and England's on 15%. What's all that about? How can you blame China when it says 0.03? And then what are they arguing about? Where have those figures cut? That's the whole thing is ridiculous. Didn't we notice that? How could they blame China?
Oh, I know.
We saw them bodies. They were telling us thousands of bodies were dumped on the road, and they were telling us all this stuff, and they were being like welded into their houses. 0.03. I mean, come on.
Yes, that's right. And I mean, it's good that Trump got rid of. I think he got rid of Fauci.
But why give us those figures? Why give us those figures like that? It cannot be true. Like, it's like they do that.
Right.
And is that Cluedo again? We were supposed to notice that it could never add up the way they were saying it did.
Yeah, that may be.
And that's why all of them need to go to prison. They all need to be arrested. Because they're all doing what that document says about lying to us, misusing their information to make us believe something else is happening. They all did it. So Boris and Trump and other people, Putin and all of the ones that did the clampdown need to be on that document.
It's right. It's criminal what they did, and I just pray that somehow they could be stopped, because the criminal thing of what they have done,
treason.
With this, yes, and what they did, and shut down countries and
shut down their economies.
Yes. It's and I think.
Well, all because they were in a court case and should have been more honest in the first place.
That's right.
How can you have Hillary Clinton still ramming around making interviews and doing programs, being asked questions, when really she is put down as treason? She should resign.
I know.
Why aren't these people resigning? I know that there's supposed to be all these arrests, but we haven't seen anybody, and if it's happening, it's so private, we can't see it. What's that? How can you do that to the people? We want to see it.
Exactly.
We want to know.
That's right. Exactly. I think we have the right to know, to see what's happening. But I do think that Hillary has to, in September, she is going to have to testify again about her email situation. You won't hear much. They didn't make much news when, of course, mainstream media, but she had filed an appeal. They have brought her up. They had brought her up again about the email, and I think that's what it was. And so she's going to have
How can you have someone accused of so much, and still it could be, oh my God, the next election she's running for president again?
Oh, I know.
You just don't know, do you? Because they haven't put their candidates forward.
Right. I think it's going to be Biden for the Democrats, but they could manipulate it some way to get Hillary. I would think so, But it's just a really horrible thing of what they do to us, and we've been putting up with this for many, many years, and it has to come to a stop.
Since Claudia was telling me it was the 40s and 50s into the 60s, and I said, well, that's when they turned us into a globe, was in the 60s. That's when they did it. pretending that we've been to the moon.
Yes, that's right. And also the operation.
Because many people have done
Mockingbird.
interviews with people who are like 80 or 90 years old, and they all say, well, I grew up believing we were on a flat plane. So they did it to us in the 60s, and it might have been a bit different, and it might have been a few hundred years ago where people going, are we a ball? Why would they, 400 years ago, believe they were a ball? When they never experienced it at all. They just sailed straight there, or now we fly straight there.
Right.
I mean, I love that video Steve put out about that, by the way. We're digressing and we have to go in a minute. But, you know, and he's trying to explain if you were flying on a ball, what it would be like. You'd have to spiral down. We don't ever experience anything like that except for landing.
That's right. Yeah, that was a really good video explaining that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just makes no sense.
I mean, I wish people would wake up and realise, when did you ever do at school the rotation of the Earth and what it'd be like if you were travelling around? No. It never happened.
They didn't.
And it still doesn't happen today, does it?
That's right, it doesn't. And they just tell you about, you know, that gravity is holding us all at one and everything. That's all they told us in school about it.
I mean, what they've told us is happening is we're going in 3 directions. 1 is with the moon and 2 are with the sun and the universes, and the sun is in that universe. So we're going anti-clockwise at 1 speed with the moon, rotating whatever, and then we're going clockwise with the sun and the universe. And when you add up the speeds, we're going Mach 80 and we don't feel a thing at all. It's impossible.
Right. Exactly.
And if you're in a vacuum of space, if you're in it as this sort of, well, it's out there, there's no way you could pop into it and pop back. A vacuum is a vacuum.
That's right.
So,
yeah,
again, you know, there's just so many lies told to us, so many. Yeah, but on that, Amy, you still there? Yeah, you're still there. Yeah.
Oh yes, I'm here. Yes, yeah, it's terrible, and very sad and terrible that they decide to about everything.
But they've managed to convince most people that we've gone to the moon, which we haven't. So you can see why they can give us cases like the person who's on the screen right now. You can see why they can do that and put CV19 in.
Exactly.
If we believe they've gone to the moon, we're going to believe in that, aren't we?
That's right. And people just don't ask questions, even if they see something is wrong.
But that's why we're called the Unscrambled channel. We try to unscramble things or get people to think.
Yes, that's right. Get people to think and unscramble all the crazy stuff that you know they tell us. That's a great title.
I wish we magically had all the answers for everybody. I mean, there are answers. You know, we're going to have a hangout tomorrow with Claudio, and he's going to be talking about law, what a human means, what these words in legal terms mean, and when they call you that, that's what that means, and when they call you that, that's what that means. Because right now, in the middle of this pandemic, the law is they own everything: the sky, the land, the sea, the boats, the ships, planes, you, me, our houses, and they can do whatever they like right now.
I know. Oh, that'll be a great hangout then for Claudio too. You know,
Claudio and David tomorrow. We're doing that one.
Oh, David. And
Claudio wants to move on to the future and help us if people are listening to go to listen, and then you know it helps you in your life.
Yes. Oh, that would be great. Yeah, he has such Claudio has such words of wisdom and to chill.
Oh, Amy. That's it, Amy. We lost you for a second there.
Yeah, I'm back. I love internet, but people his words of wisdom and truth. Thank God for people like Claudio and David and you.
Yeah,
and
because
all the
they're giving their
truth
time and they're
people,
doing it for
truth
nothing.
community.
They're doing it for nothing. They're giving it. But anyway.
Exactly.
Amy, we've been going on for 34 minutes now. We just can't stop talking, can we?
Well, I know. That's right. But we need a talk show.
We are the Unscrambled show. Amy, thank you so much for your time. I hope people understand.
You're so welcome.
It is a bit frustrating to realise that nothing's real.
Yes, it is. But it's very frustrating. But hold on to your faith. I would tell people and God, and you just believe in that, and ignore the television.
Tell a lie on a
think
vision.
for yourself, and you just. Exactly, that's right.
It's a big kiss for you, Amy, and it's a kiss for the channel. Thanks for listening.
Yes. Yes.
Okay then, bye everybody.
Karen.
Love you, Amy.
Bye everybody. Love you, Karen.
Bye, darling.